Our team chose a three-pronged strategy that's centered around the expansion into new markets, research and development to gain competitive advantage, and capacity expansion to keep pace with the increased consumer demand. Following our Q4 results, we were well positioned in our original target market segments, which were workhorse and cost cutter. We believed, however, that we did need to expand into at least one additional market and in order to have enough overall demand to generate the margins necessary to win in our simulation. We chose Traveler as our new target segment for two primary reasons. One, it was a high margin segment based on the potential price points in our market research had indicated were available. And two, feature R&D in this segment was largely unusable for other segments due to the unique demands of this customer profile. Finally, we knew that we would have to continue expanding our plant capacity in order to serve an ever larger demand base. As you can see in slide 6, the first leg of our strategy involved expansion of our sales force. The primary driver of this leg of the strategy was the relative absence of other competitors in markets outside of Europe and North America. We sensed that there was significant market share that could be gained simply by being one of the few options in these markets. As you can see in slide 7, we opened sales offices and expanded the sales force fairly rapidly beginning in Q5. We used the initial VC funding to open a spate of new offices in Q5 and funded subsequent office openings through increased revenue from prior office openings. As you can see in the chart on the left, while we competed with the simulation winner on office openings, we lagged far behind in total sales staff. We intentionally did not expand our sales staff to match Carolina Tech Company, as we felt their overstaffing reduced their retained earnings, which is likely one of the reasons we came so close to catching them in the end. Slide 8 details the second prong of our strategy, which was to use R&D investment to solidify our gains in the new markets we entered by creating competitive advantage through our feature offerings. As you can see in the chart on the right, we invested significantly in Q5, with another substantial investment in Q6 as well. Had this simulation not ended in Q8, we would have likely maintained this investment strategy into the future. However, there was not enough time in the simulation to reap the benefits of any further R&D investment, so we tapered off in Q7 and 8. The primary thrust of our R&D strategy was to split our investment between broad-based improvements that would help all of our brands, such as software and comfort upgrades, as well as narrow market capturing features such as slim laptops for the Traveler segment. As you can see in slide 9, our overall market appeal responded very favorably to our R&D strategy, which allowed us to introduce improved brands in every subsequent quarter. We believe it was this continual improvement that allowed us to capture market share as we expanded our sales office and sales force locations. One important fact to note, however, is that we did not anticipate the impact of continual R&D on our production capacity. In introducing a new brand each quarter, we effectively scrapped any remaining inventory from the previous quarter, which caused us to lose sale on some brands as we ramped up production in the next quarter. Had we anticipated this effect, we would have likely invested more heavily in production capacity expansion to offset the effects of this changeover and production restart each quarter. This brings us to slide 10 and the final prong of our strategy for the remainder of the simulation. We knew that if we were planning to expand into new markets and gain competitive advantage in those markets, we would absolutely need to expand our plant capacity in order to service that demand that those actions generated. For this reason, we made sure that our production capacity expansion was an integral part of our strategy. As you can see on the chart on the right, we steadily expanded our fixed capacity for the remainder of the game. It is important to note at this point, however, that this was likely the most flawed element of our in-game strategy. While we did accurately predict a need for increased capacity, we repeatedly underestimated the total new demand that would be generated by our other activities, and therefore we were perpetually running our plant at full capacity and still losing sales to stockouts. Unfortunately, by the time this situation became clear, we had burnt all of our original VC funding, and we were very wary of using debt to fund capacity expansion for fear of overspending and being weighed down by debt. This caused us to miss sales, but it allowed us to ensure profitability on those sales that we did make. As you can see in slide 11, we did not allow our failure to properly expand our plant capacity to go unaddressed. While we still feared sinking significant resources into a plant expansion, we used R&D funding of changeover improvement to temporarily simulate the effects of proper plant expansion, which allowed us to operate in the quarter as if we had expanded our factory sufficiently. While this was not the optimal solution, we felt like it provided us enough flexibility such that we could maintain a profitable stance and still address our demand issues. As you can see in slide 12 in the chart on the right, our gross profit margin grew steadily beginning in Q5 and continuing throughout the rest of the simulation until it began to plateau in Q8. We believe that if this simulation were to continue running indefinitely, we would see this margin plateau and then ultimately begin to fall as markets became more mature and price elasticity became more prevalent in those markets. At this point, it's important to note the effects of our capacity expansion decisions. While we had previously commented on the fact that conservative plant expansion limited our overall revenue by not fully meeting demand, it should also be noted that our total sales, gross margin, and net margin all rose during quarters 5 through 8. Our conservative approach to capital expenditures did limit sales, but it also allowed us to respond to demand without overreaching on plant expansion and thus being saddled with a significant debt overhang. While we feel like we left sales on the table, hindsight is always 20/20. Had demand not responded the way that it did, our expansion strategy would have allowed us to adjust more quickly than the team that poured significant capital into their plant